the number one movie of 2012, according to Joshua Starnes, film critic, is Les Miserables. I'm going to throw it right at you, Joshua. We've talked about all the other 9 films. Why is this the number one movie of 2012?
Because it's just the most enjoyable to watch. It has both substance and surface in equal amounts, and it has everything that Hollywood can do right about in movies. It does right in Les Miserables. You know, we come down on Hollywood a lot for, well, you just make service-oriented movies, or just do that, or it looks nice, but it's pretty, but there's nothing to it. It's too melodramatic, it's too fantastical. We forget when we're doing that there's nothing wrong with those if you bring it to the right subject matter and handle it in the right way. And a musical, by its nature, can be and should be over the top and melodramatic and romantic in the classical sense. And Les Mis is all of those things, and it totally works.
It totally works. So then, like in terms of, like, this is a 3-hour movie that is a musical, and basically they're talking as they're performing at the same time. Like, why the average audience member, why do they need to see this film? Because that's hard for them to, like, get through. You know what I mean?
It could be. You know, it's a sung-through musical, which is not how film musicals have traditionally been done. It's quite long. It follows the plot of the stage play very closely, which is in itself rambling. I think that's the best way to put it. You know, as it bounces from years to years and place to place very, very quickly. It doesn't have a lot of dancing. It has some joyousness, but it also has a lot of smaller, darker moments tied into the singing. It's a very religious movie. At the heart of Les Mis is actually the question of comparing living your life by a Christian ethos versus living your life by a man-made legal ethos, and which is better. So there's a lot of stuff to it that your average audience might not like. On the other hand, this has been a very successful stage play for a long time. Yeah. So it's very likely that you have a pretty good audience that can handle that sort of thing. And there are some severely great performances in it. Hugh Jackman is fantastic, and Hathaway has got the best supporting actress Oscar locked down with this role. She does such an amazing job and outsings almost everyone else in the cast, including the seasoned Broadway performers. Russell Crowe, despite not having the best singing voice, inhabits Javert so entirely you can't really imagine anybody else doing that role.
So it sounds like so in terms of, like, this has been adapted many times, of course, on stage play, Broadway musicals. There's a movie about it. Was it 20 years ago? I didn't think it was bad. But, like, what separates? Is there something added to this play that we've never seen before?
I would say it's distilled. The other versions of it have either tried to adapt the novel that it originally came from, or they've taken out the singing, or they've done a straight version of the stage play, but they've never done the musical version. And this story's been around for a long time, but it didn't become extremely popular until the musical version came out, which I think really distilled the essence of a very long book. This is one of the longest books ever written. And the musical version, as long as it was, distilled the essence of that down in such a way through song to get the point to you of what was going on with these characters and the place they were in. Even if you didn't understand all the nuances, you didn't need to understand all the nuances. In the different film versions, they've sort of gone back to the original in a lot of those and tried to explain all over again, which doesn't really work. And something that is called The Miserables. I mean, it's not always a happy story. When you start to take out the singing, you take out the one thing that will keep you interested in what is often a very long, continuous string of disappointments on a lot of people's parts. I mean, it is post-revolutionary France. It's not the happiest place on earth. And considering how much of it's about the struggles of the lower classes, it's doubly unhappy frequently. One of your main characters dies 20 minutes in, and that's the main thing she contributes to the entire story. But in this case, they've taken exactly what made the stage play work and just put it on film. Larger and more lavishly than you could ever do with a stage play, but without changing it. And in that way, they've actually distilled it down to its essence and made it very simple, so you can just take in about it what works without being bombarded by other elements that would distract you from the heart of it.
What's the overlying theme of this of like the version of the play, the book, the theme, like of this movie itself? What are they trying to say here?
they're trying to say that the best life, regardless of the struggles in it, the best life is a Christian-led life. In a lot of ways, it's the story of Job. The main character, Jean Valjean, who you first see carrying a large plank of wood as if he were, carrying his own cross up a hill like Jesus, is very much a Job-like figure who goes through a tremendous amount of pain and suffering through his life that is in many ways designed to tempt him away from the path of righteousness, which he decides at the very beginning of the story that he's going to follow for the rest of his life, no matter what. And he is compared and contrasted throughout the entire film by the inspector, Javert, who is following him and trying to find him and arrest him again for breaking the law, even though the law he broke was to save human, it was out of compassion. In this case, Javert, and by extension the law, is heartless and treats everyone in an equal way, which means they treat everyone meanly and lowers them. And it suggests that it does that because it's a human invention, the story suggests. And so it compares those two and shows one as a better way to live than the other. And that's really what's at the heart of it.
Okay, what was your favorite movie what was the number one movie last year that you had?
The Artist.
The Artist was your number one movie of the year?
Yeah.
Is this movie better than The Artist?
I think so. It's different, but I think it's probably better.
Okay, so The Artist won the Best Picture last year. Is this movie going to win Best Picture?
It's going to be tough. When it comes down to winning, politics takes a lot into it. Politics and the shape of the campaign. I was actually a little surprised The Artist won last year. That doesn't happen very often. This year, a lot of the politics on Argo's side for a variety of reasons. And I don't mean politics like liberal or Republican.
Yeah, I
mean the politics of how you get someone to vote for something in the Academy. A lot of it coming down to who deserves this, who won this most recently, that sort of thing. And I think a lot of that's coming down on Argo's side this year, and deservedly so. Argo's a great movie, and you can make a very strong argument that it is the best picture of the year, and a selection for that wouldn't be entirely wrong.
Okay, so the Chicago was the last musical to win Best Picture, which was 2000 or 2001.
2002.
Was it 2002? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just remember they filmed it in 2000. Sorry, what is this better than Chicago? Which one Best Picture?
Yes.
Like far better?
This is miles better than Chicago. Now you're saying this as someone who would not have put Chicago on his top 10 list. And
okay.
I don't dislike it, but I've never been a big fan of it. I mean, the only musical from this decade I put on an annual top 10 list was Sweeney Todd in 2007, and I think this is better than that.
Okay, and so in the last 10 years, where does this movie land in the last? Like, if I told you to do a top 10 list for the last 10 years, where would
it probably wouldn't crack that. There's been two.
No?
I mean, there have been some really, really great movies out of the last 10 years. I haven't had quite enough time for reflection for this year yet, but probably wouldn't crack the top 10. That's a much harder call.
So to jump on that, how does this year compare to movies of years past? I know 2007 was your favorite year, probably, right?
This is a tough. This year was better than last year. It's probably better than the last couple of years. The thing with this year is when you get to the top, there's nothing that's screamingly great. You had a lot of movies that were extremely well done. They were all were all close to each other in terms of quality, but none of them that you just let them go. That is heads and shoulders above everything else. So you have a lower ceiling, but also a higher floor.
On the spot, before we finish, what films besides your top 10 list that should people see? Which movie should we see? That perhaps we never heard before, or perhaps we did hear. What do we need to see?
That you've never heard before?
Oh, who knows? You can say Dark Knight Rises. We have to see that movie. Whatever jumps out to you. What?
I would definitely say I'll tell you what. Amour. If you get a chance, go see Amour.
Okay. Yeah, you gave that. I was surprised that wasn't on your top 10 list. You basically praised that film in your review.
That movie, it just barely missed out. But I really do love that movie.
There's anything else?
Rust and Bone. If you can get out to see Rust and Bone, check it out. It has some problems, but its strengths are so strong. It's totally worth seeing.
Okay, there's nothing that anything that Amour, I guess it's getting some. I guess it's getting some praise. I guess, right?
Yeah, it's getting a pretty fair amount. It'll probably be an Oscar nomination for Best Foreign Film. It might actually be a Best Picture nominee. It's hard to say. I suspect Emmanuel Riva will get a Best Actress nomination.
Yeah, like there's 10 films now. I remember Midnight in Paris got nominated a couple years ago, which is like terrible, but that's just me. But like, more should get nominated for best picture. It has to, right?
I would not be surprised if it did. You never really know, but when you got to start filling out the last couple, but it certainly belongs in there.
Is Batman is like Dark Knight Rises gonna get nominated?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so top 10 list, Joshua Starnes, thank you very much. It was a cool list.